podcast, joined as always by Clinton Boring. My name is Ryan Satkoviak. Clinton, sir, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. We had almost 70 degrees today here in Columbus. It was pretty magnificent. Had another beautiful day yesterday, and we're not supposed to have any rain until Saturday. So pretty nice for us here in Columbus. Ryan, did you guys get any of that dust that rolled up from like Texas and the South?
I don't think so.
So we had a bunch of dirt, and people were complaining in Ohio, saying that the rain must have been really dirty, and it made all of our cars look like a dust storm came through. And then the weather people came out and was like, "No, that actually just blew up from the south after they had storms, and it blew up, and everybody's cars were just filthy." So I was curious if it reached as far as Michigan. Apparently not.
I did not see any.
Gotcha. What's your guys' weather like?
We're always like 7 to 10 degrees colder than Columbus is.
Okay, so at least are you getting sunshine?
Yeah, it was sunny today. It was a little windy.
Nice, nice. How are you doing this week, Ryan?
Good. I'm warming up for betting on March Madness, and it was an okay weekend. And fucking, I don't even know what game that I bet on, but it ruined my parlay because they did not go over 129.5. They finished at 129. So that's how my day's going today.
March Madness should be fun. Real quick, guys. Again, Ryan and I are going to do a for fun March Madness bracket challenge. If Clinton can ever get some free time on his hands this week, I will likely create one within ESPN, and then we will post the link on our YouTube page, and you guys can feel free to join. You'll get one bracket a person, and it's just for bragging rights because we don't make any money off this, so we can't pay you. Sorry.
Do you think that CPA guy still plays for Oakland?
I think he's done.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I believe he's done, yeah.
They're on my quad box right now, and I just remember him.
The guy that cooked Kentucky last year?
Yeah, just could not stop hitting three-pointers.
Yeah, no, I think he's doing something else with his life now.
Good for him. I hope he's well.
I got the Wofford Terriers and the whatever Furman is, and the SoCon championship right now.
Well, I just got a quad box on. Kept YouTube TV.
Ryan, how was it? How was Michigan this week? Now that they've lost back-to-back games to Big Brother, Michigan State. Oof.
Clinton, don't give a rat's furry ass about basketball, and whenever someone mentions basketball to me, I immediately tune out because I don't care.
How the hell you got a quad box? I only got a triple box.
I don't know, man. I think one of them is not currently showing a basketball game, but it was when I turned the box on like an hour ago.
Okay, that makes sense now. I got you. Makes sense.
No. I got all four. All four of them are basketball games.
A bunch of BS. Columbus only giving me 3.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, so what are we talking about tonight, Ryan?
Burning. Oh fuck! Do I still have that sound in here somewhere? I don't know if I do.
5 burning questions.
Damn, that was too bad. I wasn't paying attention. I could have pulled that one back up. No, I think it's gone.
Gone for good.
That's a bummer. No, it's still got to be in here. Nope, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, as Ryan is alluding to, we are doing 3 of our burning questions for teams heading in.
Nope, that's the wrong one. Oops.
Our 3 burning questions heading into spring. It can be team specific, it can be player specific, it can be position group, whatever it is. Ryan and I came up with 3 questions on our own for our biggest questions facing these teams, and then we're going to talk a little gambling because, as Ryan mentioned, he loves to gamble. So we got a little FanDuel betting odds for the Big Ten Championship in 2025. Ryan.
Yeah,
should I
get either? That's not it either.
Should I get that intro song every time before I tell the people about the socials?
Yeah, we can.
I thought you were doing that for me.
The game show. No, yeah, I don't know.
Well, guys, if you're tuning in with us, you are following us on YouTube live tonight. You can reach us on YouTube at ITPCFB. Hit subscribe on that button so you never miss a minute of the action. If you like the audio version, you can check us out on your preferred podcast platform, whether it be Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or wherever you can get us. Hit follow and leave us a 5-star review there as well to help grow the show. And if you'd like to check us out on the other social media platforms, we are available on Instagram and Twitter /X. Just search ITPCFB and give us a follow. I'm doing my best to keep up with content on these guys. We're doing one show a week, so I'm cutting clips and taking them from there and putting them on there, but I also am extremely busy at work, so finding the additional free time, I am doing my best to get you some stuff out there. Ryan, anything else to add, good sir, before we jump into our biggest questions?
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Hopefully there's not any more snow. I'm done with snow.
Clinton,
This is over with.
It's the second fake spring, which means we are going to get snow at least one more time before the middle of April.
Listen, y'all in Ann Arbor can get your second 15th snow. I'm done with Columbus.
It's going to happen.
It's going to be almost 80 on Thursday here.
We're gonna get snow eventually. I guarantee it. It happens every year. You think it's done, and then you get a random 22-degree day in like the first week of April, and it just kills all of your grass and plants and shit.
Well, that's why you're not supposed to plant until after Mother's Day.
Wait, is that a thing? I thought you had to plant early.
No, you plant after Mother's Day because frost is supposed to be done.
Oh,
by then. You can plant things that can survive a frost.
Oh.
But like your summer flowers and stuff, no, you're supposed to wait until after Mother's Day.
I don't know what's what.
Well, wait a second. This is your first full spring at the new house. That's right.
This is our first spring period because we didn't move in until
June.
Yep.
So you guys get to do planting. You get a full season of mowing. Look how excited you are, Ryan. Do you have a riding mower or a push mower?
No, the yard's not even close to big enough for a riding mower. If I rode a riding motor around this yard, I would get dirty looks from neighbors. Get off your fat ass and mow your own lawn, you piece of shit. Your lawn is tiny.
Oh god, that'd be great. Yeah, we didn't either. My mom and dad, we put up with our patio, so we put up the edging stone around for the flower bed to prep this Sunday, and my dad's like, you got to get a roller in this backyard. And so my mom mentioned, I'm like, homie, I can't get no damn lawnmower back here to roll my backyard. This is push mower only. Mm-hmm. So Leah looks up a hand roller today. She goes, look, you can buy this for $50. I'm like, I'm going to be the jackass in the back of my yard. What looks like a 1910 lawnmower pushing it around to roll my yard. But anyways, Ryan, why don't you kick us off tonight? What is your first biggest question coming into the Big Ten spring?
I didn't want to just parse this down into like one team or a small handful of teams because that didn't feel inclusive enough. I just wrote quarterback battles in general. There are quite a few. I should have gone and like parsed this out like team by team just to be definitively certain that this is factual information, but just off the top of my head, there's quarterback battles at Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Minnesota, possibly Wisconsin, possibly Iowa, Oregon, Northwestern, and then I put question marks at Maryland and USC because Maryland lost Billy Edwards, so I'm assuming there's going to be a quarterback battle. And I'm not 100% convinced that Jaden Maeva is going to be USC's definitive starter given that they're bringing in a 5-star freshman. So if my math is correct, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's at least 10 quarterback battles. 9 of them being in the Big Ten. So approximately half of the Big Ten's quarterback positions will be up for grabs this spring. And there's some hefty teams in here, right? This isn't just like, oh my gosh, Rutgers is having a quarterback battle. Purdue's having a quarterback battle. Who cares? Like, how some of these quarterback battles play out not only are going to go a long way in determining how the conference finishes this year, but likely who gets into the college football playoff out of the Big Ten, right? Like your last 2 defending national champions have quarterback battles. The team that was just in the national championship game is having a quarterback battle. The team that won the Big Ten this past year is likely having a quarterback competition. Like there's a ton of star power that has departed this conference at the quarterback position. And there's some legitimately good blue chip guys who are potentially in line to replace those players. So I'm fascinated to see how this is going to end up playing out. And a lot of it too is not like the past where it's the Riley Leonard, Will Howard, Bo Nix coming in. You brought your big old transfer portal guy in who's definitely going to start. And I think a couple of these places, I think that's the case for sure, right? Like Billy Edwards is probably going to be Wisconsin's starting quarterback. We could probably calling that one a quarterback battle is probably a bit of a stretch, given that they probably paid him a hefty chunk of change to come in. But like Ohio State didn't go out and get anyone. Notre Dame didn't go out and get anyone. Michigan got Mikey Keene, but we all assume that that's a placeholder until Bryce Underwood is ready. Oregon, I know they got Dante Moore 2 years ago, but they didn't go out and once again get anyone. They're kind of letting him duke it out with Austin Novosad. So I am fascinated to see how some of these play out. I know that, some programs are a little different with access. Some don't have a ton of media viewing, so it's going to be kind of hard to make heads or tails of these in the spring. And knowing what we do about player movement and we still have the spring transfer portal window, I'm fascinated to see how many of these are artificially drawn into the fall to try to keep your quarterback room full. So there's going to be, from multiple fronts here, a fascinating storyline to follow in the spring.
Well, I will throw my first one out there then just to play off yours. I went specific, and I said Mikey Keene versus Bryce Underwood quarterback battle. We know Michigan had abhorrent quarterback play in 2024. My vocabulary word for the day, I even Googled it so I could pronounce it correctly.
So you didn't want to have another sight for sore eyes situation is what you're saying.
No, we didn't need that. Anyways, moving on from that. If you look at Michigan's quarterback play last year, Ryan, can you guess how many touchdowns they threw for as a team?
9.
12.
Ah!
How about interceptions?
16.
13.
Fuck!
So, you're still correct in, though, they threw more picks than they did touchdowns. You know what also was funny? I believe Jack Tuttle's started some games for Michigan, right? Well, Donovan Edwards threw as many touchdown passes as Jack Tuttle did last year.
Not great.
One.
Not great.
Donovan Edwards was 1 for 1, and I believe Tuttle was 32 of 50, something along those lines. So you get 50 attempts and 1 TD, while your running back gets 1 attempt and gets a TD. That's problematic, right? That's pretty much what we talked about all year that held Michigan back. So you bring in Mikey Keene from Fresno State, who also had 2 years at UCF. It looked like he started his first year at UCF. Must have gotten hurt second year. I didn't dive in deep enough because his yardage was like cut in half. And then off to Fresno State where he started the past 2 years. Keene had, in 2 years at Fresno State, 42 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. He's already an upgrade in theory if you look at what they had last year. But my big question was, big money, Bryce Underwood. If Underwood is as good as everyone thinks he is, how can he sit on the pine? And I think Michigan certainly will follow what you just alluded to is you're going to ride this out at least until fall. I don't care if Underwood comes in and is ahead better than Mikey Keene. You're going to make him earn it, right? And you're going to ride this one out till fall camp, create a competition. Competition is healthy. But if Underwood is as good as everybody thinks he is, how's he just going to sit on the pine? And if he's that good, can he just solidify the job in the spring and just be done with it? So I'm kind of intrigued to see how this one specifically shakes out. Because if Underwood's as good as he can be, Michigan's losing a ton this year, especially going to the draft. We've talked about it. They still don't have an answer quite specifically at wide receiver, and we'll get into that when we talk about our spring breakdowns. But quarterback is the key position for every team, and an elite quarterback automatically changes your perspective day one. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
If you were to rank, let's say the 3 most interesting quarterback battles in the Midwest this offseason, how would you parse it out? Because I think, I'll explain Michigan in a second, but I think it might be the most interesting.
Michigan's?
Yeah.
Yes, I think Michigan's is one. I would say you're the Notre Dame guy, but I think Carr and Angeli is an interesting one. I would probably put that as my number 2. And I'm also saying that because that was one of my backup questions in case we overlapped. But Carn Angeli, I was reading an article before this. They think there's a legit chance that Angeli could be the starter, and then many people continue to bring up Carr's recruiting status. So that would be number 2 for me. I mean, the easy answer is Ohio State, right? Because of Julian Sand and the expectation for him. They just talked about it this past week that it's an open competition. All 3 guys will be taking, not 2, but all 3 guys will be taking QB1 reps this spring for whatever this spring looks like. They're going to run it till fall. We know it might be a 2-man race by then. You're not going to be giving 3 guys QB1 reps in your fall camp, but Ohio State would be the easy answer. But I don't know. Can Novosad push Dante Moore? That's a pretty quarterback friendly offense. So your thoughts on your 3?
Well, I don't know. Like 2 and 3 for me, like you could put any combination of Oregon, Ohio State, and Notre Dame in there, and I think they're all interesting. But they're all interesting for the same reason, because in theory, those teams are going to be good again this year. But how good the quarterback position is probably going to determine what the actual ceiling is for those teams. I don't remember Oregon's schedule off the top of my head, but Ohio State's got a tough schedule. Notre Dame's got a hellacious first 6 weeks of the schedule. So, like, we're talking about, mediocre to good quarterback play for these teams could be the difference between a playoff berth and just a good 9-3 season. Whereas, like, I've seen some people, like, it's the same shit that people did last year when people were saying, oh, well, Michigan, they're just going to be good again. Like, I've already seen Michigan getting, like, playoff at-large consideration in some preseason brackets, and it's just, I don't understand, like, what they've done to earn that benefit of the doubt, because
they lost arguably more talent on this year's team than they did the team after they won the national championship.
Yeah, like, you're potentially going to have lost 4 first-round picks, off, and 3 of them being off of your defense. Like, you didn't really do anything to supplement your receiver room, which was awful last year. I don't know that you really did anything to supplement your offensive line room, which I guess it got a little bit better as the season went along. And with natural progression, some of those young guys you figure are going to be better this year now that they've played together. But with Bryce Underwood, like, if he's, and I get that this is a spectrum, right? Like, it's very difficult for a true freshman quarterback to come in and make a Trevor Lawrence type impact.
Absolutely.
But, like, if he's even like half of what Trevor Lawrence was as a freshman, like, Michigan could be a playoff team this year. The thing I wonder with Michigan, though, is if coming out of fall camp, if Mikey Keene, like, in a vacuum, right? Like, you take the names off of it, you take the situations off of it. Mikey Keene's the better quarterback coming out of fall camp, but it's kind of close. Is there pressure to just play Bryce Underwood because of the financials involved? Like, I don't know that we've truly seen, like, the fallout of an NIL battle, or like the quintessential NIL player, right? Like, I know
pressure.
that, like, well, not just the pressure, but like, not just the pressure on him, but like the pressure to play him. Like,
Oh, that's what I meant. The pressure to get him on the field because what you
like,
paid.
because like, I know, like, I'm not naive, I'm not an idiot. I mean, maybe I am an idiot, but not in this regard. But like, obviously, all of these 5-star quarterbacks are getting a hefty chunk of change from the school that they signed with, right? But like, other than Nico, I can't think of one that has been so publicly disclosed in the way that Bryce Underwood's was.
I'm blanking on the one, but it never panned out. Why am I blanking on the kid's name? Jaden Rashada.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Rashad
Florida,
Schwartz
Arizona
was-
State, then to Georgia.
Yes.
And now somewhere else, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember where he went.
Tennessee Tech. I don't know.
But like, with Underwood, at what point do the people who finance that operation like come in and say, why is this kid not playing? Why did I cut you a check for $12 million if he can't even start?
Yeah, the guy from Oracle and Dave Portnoy.
I mean, maybe not the guy from Oracle, because I think he fucking farts and $12 million comes out, so he probably doesn't give 2 shits. But like,
I don't think Portnoy wouldn't be verbal though.
No,
Mikey
he
Keene
would.
comes out here and he's ass.
No, yeah, for sure. But like, That's why I'm interested in it, because if Underwood doesn't win the job and Mikey Keegan comes out and he's not lighting the world on fire, then you're going to have this cloud hanging over the team all year, or at least until the situation rectifies itself. And what if Underwood then comes in and he struggles because he's a true freshman and he got thrust into playing because of the external pressure from donors or whatever, and then that pressure's getting to him and he's not playing well. So then the noise gets loud. It's just like that just feels like a situation that could turn ugly if it doesn't play out a certain way.
Yep.
And maybe I'm just projecting what I want to happen versus what will happen, because I think it'd be kind of funny, but I digress. I digress. That's it. It's just, it's a, no, it's just, maybe it's not, I don't know if it's interesting in the sense that what happens in that battle is going to determine a lot in terms of like the big picture of the college football season. But in terms of like the future structure of the sport, like if that goes one way or the other, like that's going to inform the decision making process of a lot of teams down the line. Like if Bryce Underwood bombs out, there's going to be a lot of NIL related fallout with how teams deal with quarterbacks and just their roster in general.
Absolutely. I was going to make note, one quarterback battle. It's not of the automatic teams that we expect to be competing in the Big Ten championship or playoff, but Drake Lindsey and Zach Pyron in Minnesota is another interesting quarterback battle. When you're talking about those, is Lindsey is the star of Minnesota's recruiting class last year, right? A high 4-star that they brought in. There's a ton of expectations. And then Pyron, I don't know, you watched him play against Notre Dame this year, so you have more of an opinion of him than I do, but a little more experience on the playing front. So another interesting battle. I think this is why we have our next episode is going to be talking about some quarterback tiers in the Big Ten, because I think it deserves a half, if not more of a show to itself to kind of dive into these guys a little bit. All right, Ryan, you ready to move on to your number 2, numero dos?
Yeah, we can go. This is all of mine just ended up kind of being like big picture questions because
it's okay. You and I did this. What was it? Our bold predictions for the season or something in the summer, and then you went a little more overarching, and I went more specific. I like that.
Maybe
it's different. So we're not getting the same questions.
Well, we also did the what if game, and I just did the season, and you went back to like 1995. Yes.
Well, you know, it's good to be different. What's your number 2?
I was 4 years old then. This one is I just wrote coordinators ? And this is kind of, I guess, yes, I think this is also kind of playing off the quarterback battle because there's some big name guys who were moving at some notable programs. So you're defending national champion. Of the 4 coordinators who were coaching in the national title game, only one of them remains at the spot he coached at. So OSU is replacing both. Notre Dame's got a new defensive coordinator. Penn State's got a new defensive coordinator. Michigan's got a new offensive coordinator. Minnesota's got a new defensive coordinator. Nebraska's got a new offensive coordinator, technically, sort of. You see where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. So who gets his team to click the quickest? Because some of these teams are going to be playing some pretty tough games right away. Mm-hmm. You know, Notre Dame is on the road at Miami to start the season on the Sunday night. Ohio State's hosting Texas. You know, early in the season, Michigan is playing at Oklahoma. There's going to be some sense of urgency to try to get your system in place here. And, you know, maybe with the Ohio State offense, there's going to be a fair amount of carryover given that it was an internal hire. But going from Jim Knowles to Matt Patricia, that feels like it's going to be a bit of a shift in philosophy. You know, Penn State going from Tom Allen to Jim Knowles again feels like it's going to be a bit of shift in philosophy. Notre Dame's going from having arguably the best defensive coordinator in college football to a guy who hasn't coached the college defense in 5 years. So who gets their guys to click the quickest, who simplifies things, I think will go a long way in determining kind of early storylines for the season.
Absolutely. And I think looking at coordinator to quarterback right away is the expectation of Dylan Raiola with Dana Holgorsen. Just the expectations that Raiola had last year. Obviously, growth coming into year 2. We talked about Holgerson's stats as an offensive coordinator last week and how prolific his offenses are and just how those guys tie together right away. I went with another guy that we didn't just mention there, but a team we've mentioned it multiple times already, a daunting 2025 schedule, but a team that's looking kind of to get back to their previous identity is Jeff Grimes. Can he get the Wisconsin offense back on track? That was question number 2 for me. We went to the dairy raid for 2 years with Phil Longo. The problem is, and in doing a deeper dive to read about that, is that his style of offense requires a little bit more elite quarterback play, i.e. what? Drake May's not standing there, right? Sam Howell's not there with Wisconsin. Now, again, of no fault of their own, Tanner Mordecai and Tyler Van Dyke. Mordecai injured for part of the year, didn't play a bunch. Van Dyke obviously hurt in the Bama game, and you lose him for the entire season. That's not on Fickle that happens. This is rotten luck. So I dove in a little bit on Grimes, and his offense is still more shotgun-based. They use shotgun 97.5% of the time at Kansas. However, it does a good job trying to blend the run game within the scheme to help spread out defenses, and take a little pressure off the quarterback. And you already mentioned Billy Edwards is now in. I'm blanking on the young man's name from San Diego State, who I believe is also there, but would be potentially a thought for the future more. I'm assuming Edwards is getting 1 year and 1 year only to take a swing at this. Billy Edwards, from doing a read on some Wisconsin sites, he was picked by Grimes to run this offense. So very interesting. We saw Edwards a ton last year with his running mate Ty Felton out wide. He started 11 games, a 65% completion percentage, 2,881 yards, 15 TDs to 9 picks. He was third in the Big Ten passing yards per game while having offensive line issues and a fruitless running game. We talked about how poor the running game was, seeing their star runner, who's now with Indiana, Himby. So you got a new offensive system, new quarterback, but then the schedule, right? How does this gel? Your first 2 weeks is Miami, Ohio, and then a no-name. You should, in theory, start 2-0, but Daquan Finn, now quarterback at Miami, Ohio, is not going to be no joke to face against him. But you're at Bama week 3. You have probably the hardest October in all of college football at Michigan, home against Iowa, home against Ohio State, at Oregon. And then 2 of your 4 in November is at Indiana, at Minnesota. And then you also draw Illinois at home. So if you do not get this offense back on track, he's staring down the barrel of another 6-6, 7-5 season. And now I know we just got Fickle extended through 2031, 2032. But if you go 6-6, man, I don't know. Are you getting the benefit of the doubt? So that's my big question. Can Grimes get this Wisconsin offense back to a semblance of old? It's not going to be the smash mouth of old Wisconsin football, but getting a little more back to their basics, and fingers crossed for them that their transfer quarterback stays healthy for this season.
Is Wisconsin just the most interesting team to follow this offseason, or is that just like our sick perversion, having been high on them for 2 years and them having done nothing to justify that?
The hype was high with Fickle coming in, right? My boss loved him to death. He was arguing with me about the fact that Fickle was never going to be Notre Dame's head coach. I'm like, I'm pretty sure. Like, he was telling me the years didn't line up. I'm like, no, from what I read, at least through the Ohio State channels, is what Fickle was going to be offered the job, but he didn't want to leave Cincinnati before a playoff game. Clearly, Notre Dame has made a wonderful decision with Marcus Freeman. But the hype was high with Fickle coming in with the Wisconsin job, right? And then he's bringing in a new style of offense, which people were skeptical about, but it's Luke Fickle. He's been successful. I don't know, Ryan. They're super intriguing. I think they're one of my favorite teams to do a dive into as we get into the spring episodes here. Going to work on getting our buddy Ryan Herrings from Locked On Badgers on, and he'll do a 10,000 times better job giving you guys a breakdown than probably what Ryan and I will. But they're a top 3, if not number 1, most intriguing team for me this spring.
Well, it's just so, from my perspective at least, it's just so fascinating because for maybe not the longest time, but they were one of the like primary competitors in the Big Ten West, right? Like
Mhm.
you can kind of guarantee at the end of the season, more often than not, Wisconsin's going to be in contention for a Big Ten West title. So them like this whole realignment was just fascinating from a like just a regular scheduling perspective. Is how would some of these powers in the Big Ten West kind of adapt to now having to play more of an overall Big Ten schedule? And there's obviously going to be some anomalies, right? Like sometimes you're going to get an Indiana schedule and you're going to benefit from that. And credit to Indiana for taking advantage of that last year. But gone are the days of you just having to play the Big Ten West and getting maybe, well, we got lucky because we got Maryland and Rutgers in our crossover games or whatever. So you're going to have to take a big step up. And I mean, we kind of talked about it last offseason. Gone are the days of probably ever seeing Purdue or Northwestern in the Big Ten title game. But I don't know if we were ready to go to that same length with Wisconsin. But 2 years into this, I guess we're only 1 year into it. 2 years into the Luke Fickle era, 1 year into the new look Big Ten. I got to tell you, man, the early returns are not promising.
Yep. We've mentioned it multiple times. It's going to be hard for Wisconsin to do it. The way they recruit, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're not on the level of Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan. So then your development has to be elite, which they're usually great at. And then the coaching and learning to space out and stay injury free. And there's just so many different things in addition to the now stacked overall Big Ten that you alluded to, and no longer getting the I don't want to call it a free pass, but sometimes it felt like a free pass. Who was your expectation to win the Big Ten West every year, Ryan? Wisconsin, right? Maybe in Iowa on occasion, but nobody said Northwestern. Nobody said Purdue. Like, it was Wisconsin. That was your expectation. Maybe a Minnesota creeping up at some point, but my Big Ten West preseason favorite every year was Wisconsin. And anytime I'd try to make a prediction, it was really hard to not take Wisconsin. And now, gosh, I don't know the next time you're going to see them in there. If they somehow got through this gauntlet this year, went like 10-2, one of the losses being to Bama, and made the Big Ten championship, I would extend Luke Fickle till 2050 and give him a massive pay raise, because that'd be one of the best damn coaching jobs I've ever seen. That would be phenomenal. All right, Mr. Sakoviak, number 3 for you.
Number 3, who will emerge as the alpha in the Big Ten in 2025? Again, there is a lot of turnover at the top of the conference. Ohio State is having to retool a significant portion of their national championship winning roster. Oregon, again, is going to have to replace a fair amount of star talent from this year's Big Ten championship winning team. Michigan, again, they're losing 4 first-round picks. They're having to replace a fair amount as well. Penn State seems positioned to be able to take that step, but they still kind of have that James Franklin cloud hanging over them. That's going to be a thing until it's not a thing anymore, right? Like, I don't care what Penn State fans said. Cool, you got to the semifinals last year. That's a great accomplishment. You should have gotten to the semifinals with the road that you had to get there. What can Indiana do as an encore? Illinois seems to be a team that's poised to have a big year given what their schedule is and what they're bringing back. So and I guess, after your question, maybe this wasn't the perfect segue into the Big Ten title game odds, but I'm fascinated to see how these odds change over time because there's some goofy ones in here.
Yeah, this one was end of February or mid-February when I got these from FanDuel. So I'm sure through spring or post-spring, there will be another update, just like I'm sure Brandon Marcello will not include Notre Dame in his top 25 again post-spring. Just to piss right off.
Just an oversight. Just an oversight.
And that team just happened to make the national championship. Big oversight, right? And might be pretty well favored to make another run this year, but we'll get to that. I'm going to kind of tie into yours. It's hard to ignore, just like we did with Michigan last year, but Ohio State and what they're losing. So how will they adjust to losing all the veteran talent? Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, Ty Hamilton. A lot of that's on defense, right? Denzel Burke, Lathan Ransom. but they're using Donovan Jackson, who filled in, I can't even think of a vocabulary word, valiantly, to help get this team to a national championship run. You're losing Will Howard, and thinking more of the guys who've kind of been on the team for a while versus transfer in 1 year, but a quarterback is your leader, right? Emeka Egbuka, who's been there for 4 years, Travion Henderson, 4 years. Judkins comes in and fills a needed running back role. They lose so much veteran talent, and specifically to their defense. You mentioned Hartline is the carryover, right? He's been there. But now you've lost your defensive coordinator, who's going to go to Penn State. So you have all this veteran talent that you have lost, you've had for 4 to 5 years on the defense. They're now gone, and you have to implement a new defensive scheme after you've been using the same one for what, 3, 4 years? So that then sparks in your head. How do they utilize Caleb Downs? Is he strong safety? Is he free safety? Is he playing around the field more as a playmaker that Knowles started to utilize in the playoff run? Patricia's known to use multiple fronts, odd man, even man fronts, hybrid fronts, and all this is designed to free up pass rushers. So how do they utilize the talent they've accumulated, both via portal, overtime, and then their recruits, and then put it in another new defensive scheme? It's hard. Like we learned with Knowles, right? His is complex. It takes, he's said it himself, 2 to 3 years to install and get used to it. What does that look like with Matt Patricia? And, Patricia's pretty experienced with coaching and been a defensive coordinator at the highest level. And how do they adjust that? And what bumps could Ohio State hit early in a game against Texas when they don't have a normal spring and a normal offseason to kind of settle those things in? So I'm interested to see the veteran talent that's lost. You could also play that game with Michigan. Michigan's defense was their strong point. You've now lost Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham on defense, Will Johnson. How do they recover from their 3 biggest pieces being gone for the first time? And these guys have been there 3 years, 3 or 4 years. So you can kind of play the same way with the rival there. That was my last question. Ryan, I did want a quick one for you.
Okay.
As my bonus one. If you had to make the call before spring, is it Carr or Angeli that will take the first snap for Notre Dame against Miami in September?
I'm going to say Carr.
Any short inkling as to why you think that?
Nope. There just seems to be a lot of positive buzz around him. I don't know. He didn't throw like the last 2.5 months of last season because he had an elbow injury, which is not great, but it sounds like he's 100% now. But everything before that was just like, wow, this guy's got a live arm. So I'm just going to go with the arm talent.
So elbow is good.
It sounds like
good
it.
spot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good for Notre Dame then. Good problem to have. If you got to fight it out and win it, you're going to get hopefully the better option of the two.
Yeah.
And then if Angeli, would there be any risk if Carr pulls ahead in the spring that Angeli would portal?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
I'm honestly shocked he's still on the roster.
What would be the third option then? If he's gone, you got to have someone else.
Well, Kenny Minchie is there as well.
Okay. And he would not portal?
Probably not.
Okay, God.
I mean, he could. I don't know. Like I said,
you wouldn't want to end up with one.
Well, realistically, I thought that they were going to lose 1 or 2 last offseason, but Leonard not playing at all in the spring because of his ankle ended up being a blessing in disguise, and they kept them all. So it's kind of remarkable that they're all still there anyway right now.
Certainly. Well, we know Carr's not going to flail to Michigan, not with Bryce Underwood sitting there. So
no.
All right. Last piece of the show tonight, guys, are the odds to win the Big Ten championship. Again, these were per FanDuel. I believe it was mid-February when these came out. We have the front runners, the dark horses, the long shots, and the no shots. So to start us off with the front runners, as you guys can probably guess, the defending national championships currently sit at a plus 170 odds. And Ryan, can you give us a real quick rundown? When someone is sitting at a plus odds, like a plus 170, plus 230 is our next one with Oregon. What does that mean? Explain that to the people.
So if it is a plus odds, that means your wager is returned more than what you bet. So like plus 100 would be even money. So if you bet $10, you would get $10 back. plus 170 if you bet $1, or I guess you bet $10, you would get $17. Like you'd win $17 and you'd get your $10 back.
So you'd get 27 in total. Okay. Makes sense. All right. Well, Oregon stands as our plus 230. Penn State comes in third at plus 380. And then Michigan at plus 800 after we just talked about all that turnover. Ryan, when you saw that, any of those four at all that surprised you, maybe who you think shouldn't be in the front runners, or one that should be the higher odds currently? I know you have a strong feeling about Penn State this year.
Penn State being below Ohio State and Oregon is a little surprising to me, though I mean, it's not, like, realistically, that's not that long of a difference. So I guess it's splitting hairs. I'm honestly surprised that Michigan is fourth.
I agree. That was my big one, that Michigan ended up fourth. Again, under what effect? You mentioned we've heard so many people already talking about bounce back year for this year, and I'm like, maybe we need to talk to Broom a little more in depth. I don't think we'll be getting. We got to teach Bryce Underwood or Mikey Keene how to play quarterback this year, but there's still some other holes they have to fill. So if we take a dive and we go into the dark horse section, the Indiana Fighting Sig Hoosiers plus 2,500. Nebraska and USC currently sit tied at plus 4,500. And the Iowa Hawkeyes sit at plus 5,000. Ryan, your quick thoughts on the dark horse group?
It's a little weird to see Nebraska that high. I don't disagree with it. It's still a little weird to see them as tied for sixth best odds to win the Big Ten. And granted, these are not good odds. It's not like we're talking about them at plus 1,200 or something like that. We're talking about like fuck, you're gonna make me do math, a 45-1 shot to win. So it's not good. That's not good odds. It's not good odds.
Your comments these past 2 weeks, you just said, fuck, you're gonna make me do math. Have you ever seen that meme with the naked chick? It goes, fuck, you're gonna make me, and then people just fill in whatever word that they want. You just said you're gonna make me do math. So I need to go make a meme of you similar to that woman and said you're gonna make me do math.
Yep.
I'm a bit surprised at USC, Ryan.
Yeah, that as well.
Sixth best odds to win their seventh best odds to go to the Big Ten championship and win it. I don't know, man. A lot of that rests on Jaden Maeva. What has Lincoln Riley given us to be confident that this team could do that? If I were to put USC, I would not put them in the no shots. They would be in my long shots section. I feel like I would be. I mean, we're about to name these off, but the first three I'm going to name, I would have USC behind. So
yeah, I'd agree.
I have no problem with Indiana at plus 2,500, especially if Mendoza pans out well. A little tougher schedule this year, but they return a lot of good playmakers on that team, especially Waffle House. So the long shot section, the first three, and who I would have USC behind is Washington and Illinois are plus 6,000, and then Minnesota is plus 10,000. And then that there is where I would slot USC, and then that would then be ahead of Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Rutgers, who are plus 18,000. Now, Ryan, you mentioned Washington as your potential dark horse this year. How do you feel about them sitting in the long shot section?
I mean, I'm shocked that Illinois is down here first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Like I think looking at these, I kind of had to double take because that caught me off guard. Seeing them this low, like I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten, but there are people who have Illinois as like a preseason top 10 to 15 team. So crazier things have happened, and I mean, if you're going to give me 600-1 on that, I'll put $1 on it, and if I hit it, then that's great. You know what? I might actually do this tonight.
Well, I mean, you're sitting there and tied their odds with a team that was so inconsistent last year.
Yeah, that just...
And they're in the long shot section tied with Washington. Like, how is that possible?
I don't know.
Mind-boggling. And again, we're getting some preseason bias, right? With all the hype where
Sure.
people are putting Illinois as a top 10, 15 team. They could come out and fall flat on their face. I trust that Bielema is a better coach. Again, I think their schedule is a little bit better off, that they're probably not going to just nosedive and go 6-6. But it's possible. You're losing your best two wide receivers that you now have to replace. One who's about to be drafted. We'll see if Sakari Franklin is actually drafted or not, but Pat Bryant will be. But Bielema's kind of calling card is playing defense. So as long as you play defense, you bring the D every week, you're going to be in every game. Minnesota, they're kind of my team that I said potentially could be a Big Ten dark horse this year, or maybe a playoff dark horse if they could slip in. And like if there's some turmoil, you get a 9-3, 10-2 team in. It really depends on how Lindsey and Pyron shake out. I think at this point in time, I'm leaning the Drake Lindsey and hoping to see that young talent get out there. Any surprises, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Rutgers, before we get to the next one?
No, that's
Any of them
that'll
you
make
would
sense.
maybe move down?
No, I mean plus 18,000 is pretty. That's a long shot, but let's be realistic, Clinton. That's no shot. That is no shot.
Yeah. We're about to enter the extreme no shots. The no shots, Maryland and UCLA plus 27,000. And Ryan, we're going to damn near double the next two. They're Northwestern and Purdue plus 50,000 odds to win the Big Ten championship in 2025. Yeah, 2025. Ryan, you're telling me you don't want to put $100 down on Purdue to win the whole thing?
I might as well just light it on fire if that was my inclination.
I have no disagreement with these four teams. I honestly thought Purdue might have odds all to themselves. Maybe Barry Odom got a little boost of confidence there, and we're not buying the Preston Stone hype quite as much. Maryland losing a ton. This might be Loxley's last year, which is kind of alluding to what Ryan and I are also talk about next week, and that is Big Ten coaches that are on the hot seat. They are feeling the heat and the pressure this year, so we will break into that. UCLA, I could have pined for them to be a little bit higher, maybe in the long shot section at a plus 18,000. But I think these four belong where they are. Any thoughts on the group at all?
No. Yeah, even bet ESPN right now, Illinois still plus 6,000.
Yeah. That seems like a worthy wager for our better extraordinaire Ryan. So as we talked about, we're trying to think of something once we get our brains probably through the spring, and we are deciding what we want to do in the summer. But I would love to come up with something this year for the fall where we feature you and your betting prowess a little bit more, Ryan, and make that a special little segment each week that you get. Maybe on Thursdays when we do our pick'ems. Ryan can give us some picks of the week, or we can't call it picks of the week because we already call the picks of the games of the week. Whatever the hell we want to come up with. But I think that would be a fun little segment that I don't know. Maybe you can hit your boy. Who's the guy that follows us? You like Tyler Schumacher?
Yeah.
You can use some of his advice and let the people know who they should be betting for the week.
Yeah, he's made me some basketball money this week, so
nice. There you go. Basketball sounds extremely hard to bet.
It is. I don't unless I have someone literally force feeding me numbers because I don't know anything.
Have you ever, or would you ever bet on like NASCAR?
No.
That also seems complicated.
Yeah, that's a fucking crapshoot.
Do you bet hockey?
No.
Okay.
I did for like a hot minute when sports betting first got legalized, and I was so bad at it that I just no.
Yeah. Seems very interesting. All right, Ryan, that is pretty much all I have for this evening. Do you have anything to add?
No, I do not.
All right. So next week, March 17th, our last week of single episodes before we jump back into 2 a week for our spring previews, we will be talking, as I mentioned, Big Ten coaches on the hot seat, and maybe we'll mention a little guys who are the exact opposite, whose seat might be cold as ice. And then we will also talk Big Ten quarterback categories and where we place them. Again, there's some quarterback battles to be had. When I developed this list, I kind of gave a general idea of who I might expect to start. And then March 24th kicks off our spring preview season. We will be running Oregon and Purdue. What an intriguing matchup. The one that Ryan and I went to see last year. One of our favorites, Dale Bliss, will be joining us for the Oregon segment to give us a quick rundown on what we should have our eyes on for the Oregon Ducks in the spring, and maybe some sleeper guys that we need to also keep an eye on. Other than that, again, give us a follow on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, ITP CFB. Search us on YouTube, ITPCFB. Hit subscribe. And then don't forget to check us out the next morning after a live show on your audio version of the podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you can get us. Hit follow. Leave us a 5-star review to help us grow the show. Interact with us on Twitter or Instagram or really anywhere. You can leave comments to us on YouTube. We love the interactions and appreciate it, guys. Thank you all who tune in to the live shows. We really appreciate that as well.
Great week, everyone. It is conference tournaments. Turn your TVs on at work. It's going to be fun. Make some money. We'll see y'all next week.
See you.
Bye-bye. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Okay, we're good.
Can I comment about peeing now?